Lancashire. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you.
So you would be the instructor here today?
Yeah, so I'll take everybody round today and I suppose almost give a bit of an introduction to
Yeah, will you give
trees.
us introduction? What is the the objective and aim, and what are we going to achieve today? What are the outcome of this walk?
Well, do you know what? So when the lady comes, this lady's here, so I'll do that anyway. So I'll
Okay.
cover that off if you want at the same time.
Okay, that's great. I will record that time.
Yeah.
Then.
My name's Lee, so I'm going to be leading the walk today. I will be referring to my notebook because my memory is not that great, particularly when it comes to Latin names of trees. I will be sharing some of them with you, but I don't expect anybody to remember those either. Today's really an introduction to trees more than anything. We're going to do a walk that's not really going to take us that far, so we'll probably do a couple of miles at most, but actually we'll be probably not more than about 5 or 10 minutes away from the centre at any one time. I'm also joined with Andy, who's probably got much greater expertise than me actually, so I'll probably defer to Andy maybe on some things, but Andy has got a radio with him as well, so that'll keep us nice and safe, but we're also not going off any paths or tracks today. The Trust is a charitable organisation, and so really appreciate you coming along and spending your time here, and similarly if you want to get a coffee afterwards, please do so, because it all goes into the pot in terms of nature recovery in the nature reserve. I'm here on a voluntary basis today, as is Andy, and Kat actually joining us today as well, because she's also going to be starting to lead some walks at some point soon. So if anybody's interested in doing some volunteering, you can do things like leading walks or actual practical work as well at any time.
Excellent, yeah.
So I'll take us round, I'll point out trees. The trees that I've sort of picked out, if you like, today are ones that aren't particularly exotic. They're ones that you'll see as you go on any walk. And the idea of that really is that not everybody's got a woodland on the doorstep and or a park on the doorstep, or is lucky enough to have trees in the garden. And so this is where you're just walking along the street. You might then be able to see these trees and spot those items then as well. Okay. Any questions before we set off?
We'll see you soon.
Really interesting fun to see the tree, so I thought I'd see the
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Can I just go there? Let's take us some shooting.
So I'm working on the West Pennine Nature Project, so it's a big landscape recovery across the West Pennine Moors area. So, it's the start. We're in the development phase at the moment, so hopefully it will then move to implementation. But fingers crossed, we'll wait and see. So I thought we'd stop at this first tree. We'll say tree. It's actually quite a sort of shrubby species, and this is an osier, common osier, a willow. It's also known as a basket willow, and you can probably tell why it's known as a basket willow from just the structure of it here. So it's used in basket weaving. It's also used in garden ornamentation, so you'll see arches and chairs and things made out of osier willows. Like most willows, as I say, it's got that kind of shrubby type feature. They tend to grow in wet, damp places, and willows are an early species of tree that will move in, and it's because they're particularly good at fixing the ground. So they have an ability to absorb heavy metals, so zinc and things like that are in the ground that would sometimes stop other trees from growing. The willows will actually take them in, and then we'll sort that ground out. From a bark perspective, quite typical of a willow, it's that sort of greyish, greenish bark, gets a bit more brown with age, and it's covered in these little sort of dimples, and those dimples are the lenticels or lenticles, depending on how you pronounce that, and that's effectively allowing that gas exchange between the tree and the external environment, so it's allowing the tree to breathe effectively. This willow's leaves quite long and thin, and that's typical of a few species of willow as well. And willows are notoriously a tricky customer when it comes to identification because they hybridize with each other as well. So this particular willow is known to have 60 different hybrids in the UK. So it can be a tough one to identify, basically. It's always types of trees that I'm always very careful to go, this might be this or it could be that, rather than being absolutely definitive on things. Now willows, this one here has actually got the leftover catkins here and the seeds that are coming through. So these are the female seeds, and they will then disperse and spread more of this willow around the place. And willows are trees that are dioecious, and dioecious is where you have male flowers on one tree and female flowers on another tree. So this one's a female one, and these catkins will come through very early, usually before the leaves. Good for early pollinators, but they don't rely on pollination in terms of spreading themselves around. They're wind pollinated, and that's quite typical of trees that are also dioecious as well. The way I tend to remember dioecious, by the way, is the sort of di or dew, or it doesn't exactly fit, but that's what sticks in my head as the two trees, male and female. I think the other thing I was just going to mention around this as well was that the Latin name is actually, and I will mention this because it's Salix vilminalis, and Salix is what we'll come across in terms of other willows as well. Salix, people may have heard of salicylin, which is a sort of aspirin type pain medication, and in particular at one point later on the book we'll come across a white willow, which is the Salix alba, and that's often used in terms of that production of medication. It's also often used in things like face washes and beauty products as well. So yeah, that's the Salix vilminalis, an osier willow for you. So we'll head this way. I'll show you another shrubby tree. Go on.
Could I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
You said it was difficult to sometimes identify one.
Yeah.
So what's another tree that looks similar? Because I looked at it and thought it's a willow.
Yeah.
But obviously, what other trees are similar?
Yeah, so you'll also have crack willow, which has got a sort of long leaf as well, and actually the white willow has got quite a long leaf as well, and then you start to look at other clues in there as well. So we will see a white willow later on, and you'll see a massive difference because it is huge. It's a big tree. It's the biggest of the willow trees. So you look at this and go, this is quite a shrubby species. It's not going to be a white willow.
Yeah.
And the crack willow doesn't tend to have the sort of bend in terms of the twig structure. It's called the crack willow because it cracks
So
as
this is
you
what we
bend
use
it.
for basket weaving.
Absolutely, yeah. When it's early budding as well, you'll notice on these they've got an alternate leaf structure as the buds come through, but it's not alternate on either side of the twig. It actually sort of goes around the twig as it works its way up, and that's typical of willows as well, and it's also typical of poplar trees because poplar are in the same family. And I think again we've got some aspen later on, so I'll show that as we kind of go across. So in winter time, if you're seeing these buds quite close to the twig like that, little tiny buds, and working their way round, you know you're likely looking at a willow or a poplar.
And I do like the crack willow because the crack willow is called Salix vajalis, so it's completely opposite to this. So this is so bendy. The
Yeah,
crack willow will just crack,
cracks.
and
Yeah.
it'll little root as well from just a cutting, or a bit that's fallen off.
Absolutely.
Even without hybrids, how many willows are there?
Do you know, there's, off the top of my head,
Thousands.
yeah, well, I can think of at least, without the hybrids, I think of at least 15 that we've got in the UK. So, and
So it's quite a
various
tricky one to
natives and
get.
non-natives, and you'll see that differential. We'll have a look at some more willows later on as well. The kind of more common ones that we do see regularly.
And they can survive in all weather conditions.
Yeah, they're pretty hardy willows. They tend to be those kind of pioneer species, so you'll find willows cropping up first and foremost in areas. There's another pioneer species we'll come across shortly as well, one of the kind of first trees that tend to move in. But
Means
yeah,
the
very
40
hardy.
degree hot and in snow area, like snowing here.
Yeah, absolutely.
survive.
Yeah. So there's willows that grow up in higher areas of Scotland. There's sort of mountain-based willows there. You get dwarf willows and eared willows.
Yeah, sometimes like the temperature goes very high in Europe, Spain, 40 degree.
Absolutely.
So-
Yeah, tends to be pretty hardy. Okay, we'll move to the next one.
On the edge of the lake, yes, because we don't want them there.
Which is Ulex europaeus. So we've got 3 species of gorse in the UK, and actually this is something I've picked up from Andy, is that, legendarily wise, you were not to kiss a loved one when a gorse is not in flower. This particular gorse is the common gorse, and this will flower between January to June. Then the western gorse will then start flowering from late summer into autumn, and the dwarf gorse will flower then over winter. So you find basically you can kiss your loved one the entire year around, because somewhere in Britain a gorse is going to flower. This again, I suppose, we're on a tree walk here, but this, strictly speaking, is classified more as a scrub species, a shrub. But I thought it was worthwhile just showing. The wood on gorse is particularly hard and burns for a long time. So traditionally they were used in wood ovens, firing. So they were for bread, basically, for baking of bread over a long period of time. The leaves, as you can see, are quite spiky on there. So if you're going in to smell the flowers, do be careful that you don't catch yourself on the leaves. And the flowers give off a coconut scent, actually, and particularly when pressed, they've got quite a strong sort of coconut scent. So do feel free to sort of do that and have a smell of that. The flowers on these as well share a lot of similarities with a lot of flowering species, in that they are part of the pea family. And so they, when pollinated, will then turn into a small purple brownish pod, and that'll have 2 to 3 black seeds in there that will be dispersed. Now, we talked about the previous willow, how that was dioecious, where it's got the male and female on separate trees. The gorse here is hermaphroditic, so it's quite a pretty flower, gives off a scent. It's looking to attract those pollinators in, so it's got the male and female parts of the flower in the same flower, and so it's relying on bees, hoverflies, flies, etc. to come in there and pollinate it. That is the gorse.
Do these belong to the cactus family?
No, it's part of the pea family. Yeah, so the leaves are really spiky, but they are leaves rather than spines of the gorse. Yeah, you see a lot of them in Scotland. Scotland's got a hell of a lot of gorse in particular. In fact, it's seen as a little bit problematic in some parts of Scotland, because they are quite thick in terms of the coverage. So they do blot out a bit of ground flora, so you have got to watch them. And there's a few species like that we'll see today.
Are they eatable?
Edible, yeah, you can actually eat the peas that come off them, yeah, the seeds, yeah.
And the
Yeah.
seed heads, they're what's called explosive.
Yeah.
They'll dry out and create a tension, and when they pop, they'll fling the seeds out maybe 2
Yeah.
meters, and that's how they spread.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very nice. Again, they can survive all 12 months. They can survive all
Absolutely,
12 all weather.
very hardy, very hardy, and there's those kind of 3 different species that we have, so it flowers the whole year round as well.
How big they can grow? I mean,
Not
like-
huge, they got to about 2 meters, so they are a shrubby species, so you tend to see them more on kind of upland areas. They won't grow high, they don't provide a high canopy, but good for sort of smaller.
What is the best time to plant them?
To plant them?
Yeah.
I think you can plant them all year round, if I'm honest. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think there's a particular time of year where you'd plant these rather than another. Shall we head up then to, I said about the pioneer species, we've got a good.
And that's a very beautiful place to maintain.
Oh look, like it.
Yeah.
Live locally.
Yeah.
Which is often a tricky customer to identify as well, in terms of it's very similar to a downy birch, and a silver birch and a downy birch will also hybridise with each other, which then makes it even trickier to identify these
What
ones.
is happening?
Absolutely. So silver birch is another one of those pioneer trees, the ones that come in quite early on. Again, a ground fixer. They'll sort out problems in the ground, and then allow other tree species to then move in. Grow to about 30 metres high, live to up to 120 years. The bark is very noticeable, and it tends to be the ones where you'll get this sort of bark structure down at the bottom and this kind of browning at the bottom just tends to be more with the silver than the downy. And then you also get like a diamond shaped fissure structure on it as well, which then tends to be more silver than downy. Another key way of telling the differentials between them as well is the downy birch has downy twigs. So you'll see a little sort of hairy structure on those twigs coming through, and the leaves of the downy birch tend to have a sort of hairy underside as well. The leaves do also have a different shape, but again, I'm always a little bit mindful that, you know, there is that hybridization potential there, and you do see this presenting itself in a different way. But in the main, the downy tends to be more oval and less triangular in its shape, and the silver birch has teeth within teeth, if that makes sense. So I don't know if you can all see here, you've got these kind of primary teeth, and within those primary teeth there is additional teeth within there as well. So the downy birch has teeth, but it doesn't have those primary sort of teeth within teeth structure.
So,
Now another thing to note, confusingly, downy birch is uppy and the silver birch is downy. Now what I mean by that is a silver birch, as this grows older and older, will tend to droop down. So it'll almost have like a willow type look to it, a sort of weeping willow type look to it over time. Whereas a downy birch tends to be more uppy in its growth structure. It tends to point itself more up. Flowers wise, again, this is another monoecious tree. So sorry, this is a monoecious tree, so you've got then here mono one tree. That means you've got male and female flowers on the same tree. So dioecious we had before was the male and female separate. We've got hermaphroditic where it's male and female in the same flower, and we've got monoecious where we've got male flower and female flower but on the same tree. And the male flower is like a lamb's tail, will come through like a yellow lamb's tail. And the females are a sort of smaller, light green, sort of erect structure, and then that'll thicken and crimson up, and the wind will disperse that as well. I always like to throw some legend aspects into this as well. So and I had to write these things down because I can never remember these, but a barren cow herded with a birch stick will then become fertile. So anyone who's got a barren cow at home, you might just want to take yourself a birch stick home as well. And it was once used for the Lancs cotton industry because of the hardness of its wood. So the bobbins, the spools, the reels were all often made from birch. Oh, first tree as well, I should probably mention. Yeah, sorry. So there's another aspect of it, because it's known as the first tree. There is an old language called Ogham, which is one of the first languages sort of within Britain and Ireland. And the first letter of the Ogham language is represented by the birch tree, and it's thought that that language was developed and was associated with trees because people knew trees, and so they would associate letters with trees, the first one being the birch because it was the first tree that came through. That's the silver birch. I'll try and point out a downy if we come across it as well, so maybe just sort of keep those things in mind. And don't be fooled by going, it's silver in colour, therefore it's a silver birch. It's not, no. You'll get downies that are silver, you'll get silvers that are more brown, depending on age, etc. So yeah, I'll try and point out those differences as we come across them.
When you say the pioneer and the corners, do they do that of their own accord rather than being planted?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so strong regenerators really. So those seeds will stay in the ground, and then when the conditions allow, they'll then come through. So it's thought to be one of the first trees coming through after the Ice Age, as an example, was the birch to come through. Again, it can sometimes be a bit problematic because it'll try and change the structure of a habitat. So you'll find places up on the moors where birch trees will start to come through, and actually people will try to remove them because they wanted to retain bogs and heathland, etc., rather than that secede into woodlands. So yeah,
They're on a lot of the ex-mining areas in Wigan, lots and lots of saplings through.
Yeah, you do see loads of them. Very popular, lovely tree, absolutely beautiful. I really love them. We're not going to go far to our next tree actually. I just wanted to point out though, this here, you may have noticed we've had a couple of cycles going past, and this is the gill wheel, so just be mindful of cycles coming past. We will try and shout out if we see anything. Beraggled. I think at some point that's probably had some deer attack, but it could also just be an age thing there as well. One of the easiest things to identify this tree actually is the bark structure. It's very, very, very corky. So if you get a chance, either on that one over there or on this one, have a little feel of that bark structure. It's quite sort of squishy, the bark. So that's one of the easiest ways. Fissured, often a lot of mosses and dry fine non-vascular blocks with them as well. This tree is the elder, so it's Sambucus nigra as it's Latin. Grows to about 15 metres, lives for about 60 years. We've just got a bike coming this way as well, so just bear in mind that. Lives to about 60 years, and as I said, that bark very, very distinctive. Within the actual twigs, and there's one there, so I'll just snap that off because it's actually died anyway. You'll see it's kind of got a pith all the way through that twig as well, so it's a particularly poor firewood, and strangely the fire aspect of the elder has a legendary aspect with it, or a mythical aspect of it as well. So you plant a elder if you want to keep the devil away, but if you light a fire with elder wood, you will see the devil in the firewood. So now I think that's probably because it's just such a poor, we've got a bike coming in, it's just such a poor wood basically, and so that's where people then, not to burn it effectively. I should have pointed out before actually as well, apologies I didn't do that until now, but this leaf structure of the elder, so that there, from where my finger is to there, that is a leaf. So that's not a section of leaves, that's one leaf, and these are leaflets that then come off that. And that's known as a compound leaf. And so we'll come across compound leaves and we'll come across simple leaves today as well. And compound leaves are either pinnate or they're palmate. This one's pinnate, and pinnate is that sort of feather-like structure. Palmate, just another bite coming in, sorry everybody. Palmate leaves are more palm-like, so they will be like a horse chestnut as an example, where you'll have one central leaf and the leaves will come off from that one point on there as well. The leaves smell unpleasant. Have a little rub and smell your fingers, it's not nice, and they were, feel free to do so, yeah. It's almost like a burning rubber smell to it. Sorry, we have got more bikes coming down as well, so just keep yourselves to the side. This kind of burning rubber smell to it, and they were often wrapped around horses' necks to keep flies and insects at bay as well, so that's what traditionally used to. Thank you. No problem.
Thank you very much.
You'll just see on here as well, on the taller branches, can you see these little sort of fronds coming out? Those are going to very shortly turn into like umbels of flowers. That'll be a white.
There's a good one here.
Oh, excellent, thank you. Yeah, there is one there, thank you.
Yeah.
So those
Yeah.
are turned into small white flowers.
That's
and
very
we've
nice,
got
thank
a
you.
pretty
Thank
white
you for
flower
modelling
with a smell to it. So guess what? We've got a hermaphroditic tree here. So we've got that male and female parts within the flower. It's looking to draw insects in, pollinators, to try and spread itself, basically. It is pollinated by insects. Those flowers, once they are pollinated, become the berries. And the berries are poisonous to us, but other mammals will eat them. So badgers, rabbits, voles, etc. And you will often see actually elders around rabbit holes and badger sets, because they will eat it and then in a beautifully fertilised package will then pass it right the way through as well and allow it to then spread. We can use the berries though once we've cooked them to make jams, preserves and things like that.
You can use the flowers to make underflower champagne as
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of drink always comes out on these walks as well, I've noticed. In terms of association, buff ermine moth is associated with the elder, and it's a beautiful little kind of creamy moth with dark spots on it. It's absolutely lovely little moth. And actually this tree is a good example. Can you see the dark structures just on the bark there that's exposed?
Yeah.
That's a fungus. And it's a shame it's not been wetter actually, because that usually is quite jelly-like, yeah. And it's called jelly ear. It's also known as Judas ear. And the reason for that is the association of Judas Iscariot was said to have hung himself on an elder tree, and that is his tortured soul coming through the tree. It does actually come up on other trees as well, to be fair, but it is mainly elder that it kind of comes through on. So that is the Sambucus nigra, the elder.
It's spelled as E-L-D-E-R.
E-L-D-E-R, yeah.
When we have bigger groups, sometimes platinum is going like that.
Chip chap, yeah. No, usually they just survive on their own, really. Sometimes some need management. You'll get some with diseases. So we'll have a look at an ash later on. Unfortunately, they're susceptible to dieback at the moment, so they need managing. Sometimes we'll get to put them down, unfortunately. But in the main, other than pruning, those blacks to themselves. Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? There is a little bird hide just on the right as you come down here as well, if anybody wants to have a little look in.
Look at that. Yeah.
I said it's very well stocked, but there's not a lot there. Yeah, definitely got all the seeds in the broccoli.
We've got a couple of bikes coming down. Oh no.
Thank you.
Okay.
So what do we call this tree?
So this is a very spiky customer. Has very, very long spikes. If anybody's having a touch, do be careful. Very, very long spikes there. And you'll see that there are flowers that have recently been and gone on this. So one of our earliest flowerers. And it's strangely a tree that's mixed up with another tree, but that's one of the key ways that you can tell what this is. So flowers come through early and they come through before the leaves come through, and the flowers will grow along that spine structure. So that tells you that that is a blackthorn. Blackthorn. Yeah, blackthorn. So the leaf structure on the blackthorn as well is very, very different than the other tree that it gets mixed up with, which is the hawthorn, and we'll have a closer look at hawthorn in a second as well. So that leaf structure is a simple leaf structure, and looks sort of plum-like as well in terms of its leaf structure, and that's because this is part of that family effectively. So this is known as Prunus spinosa, is its Latin name. Grows to about 6 or 7 metres, often used as a hedging tree. So a farm hedge will have blackthorn within there, and it's a tree that can cope with being laid as well. That's where you cut them very, very shortly down at the bottom, so you leave almost like a 10-centimetre part in the ground, and the rest of it is then flattened down. It looks like you're killing the tree basically, and then it grows back even stronger. And hawthorn is similar to that as well, and we'll see the third tree of that family as well that does that. It's called blackthorn because the bark of this tends to be blacker as well, so much blacker than the hawthorn. Quite smooth, and these thorns very, very sharp, very long, which again you don't really get in hawthorn, not as long and as sharp as that. It's got an association with witches as well, so witches' wands were to be made out of blackthorn, and again I think that's probably because it's quite spiky and, you know, it hurts a lot of people, and so there's this association with witches. Flowers, as I say, very early before the leaves, and those flowers are very pretty white flowers with a scent to them. Guess what? Hermaphroditic. So this again is looking for insect pollination in terms of spreading itself. And once it's pollinated, these flowers then will turn into a fruit, and that fruit is a sloe, and that will come through and will remain over the autumn and the winter. And traditionally, blackthorn was used medicinally for tonics and medicines. Now we use it with tonics, usually in gin. So, you know, again, it's that drink aspect coming through. Association with wildlife as well. Brown and black Her Street butterfly will utilise blackthorn both for its flowers, but as well as a larval plant, so plant the caterpillar eggs on there as well. That's blackthorn. Should we have a look at hawthorn as well, which is sort of gets mixed up with it, but when you see the differentials, you'll be like, oh, I'll never mix up hawthorn and blackthorn again, actually. We'll move
on. The blackthorn are very bitter. And if you ate one, it's stringent and sucks the water out of your mouth. You do like that with it. Soak it in gin. Soak it in gin.
Soak it in gin, yeah.
Sugar.
They have maintained it very well.
So sorry?
They have maintained it very well.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this bird noise.
It's lovely, isn't it?
It's beautiful.
Some longhorn cattle, I think, in here as well.
Oh, this is the one. Okay.
Yeah, they were there this morning. They've moved on now. Oh, they're just in the next building.
Yeah.
It's got a nice scent of this actually.
Yeah, it's
Isn't it
lovely.
just
I was just saying about the cattle as well over there. So those are English longhorn in the field over the way, and they're brought in. They don't live here all year round. They winter over in the coast because it's warmer, and then they come in, and then they're utilised for grazing effectively. So they keep a lot of the sort of grasses at bay, but also they create really great invertebrate habitat by the way they do that, because they are heavy and they create divots in the ground, and it's a fantastic way of them managing the land in a more natural way. So this is hawthorn. And its Latin name is Crataegus monogyna. It's also known as the May tree, and the reason why it's known as the May tree is because, as you can see now, the flowers are on this one actually, they've come through quite well, but they're just coming through on quite a few of these as well. So those flowers will come through in May. So opposite to blackthorn, the leaves will come through early before the flowers, and those leaves are really, really bright, vibrant green. It's the first sort of vibrancy that we see from trees in the spring. They grow up to about 15 metres and they'll live for about 400 years, hawthorns, so a very long laster. And they have can't really see that well, maybe as we walk slightly further down there, the really gnarly structure. So the bark's really like raggedy and it bends and twists, and I personally find that quite beautiful in the tree. I just think it's fantastic how it sort of grows, and it's a really, really hard wood. It will burn for a very, very long time. As the leaves come through, they are edible. The flowers and the buds are all edible as well. And the very early leaves were known as bread and cheese, and it was people would nibble on them when they were on long journeys to sort of keep themselves sustained. Still use them in salads and things like that now. The leaf structure on these ones, so again we've got a simple leaf, as in it is one leaf, but it is lobed, so we've got a lobe structure on this. So again, that's a big differential with the blackthorn. We've got that simple leaf, that's that oval sort of shape there. We've got a pretty flower that has a scent to it, so it's hermaphroditic. Again, it's looking at trying to bring in those pollinators to spread itself around, and those flowers, when pollinated, will again go to berries. Those are known as haws on the hawthorn, and they'll stick around all autumn. Wildlife wise, shield bugs, yellow hammers, wood mice, slow worms, redwing, field fir. There's a whole selection of wildlife that utilise the hawthorn. Now, it is a pagan symbol of fertility, and that's the sort of association then with things like May Day as well. So May Day and the crown of flowers was traditionally the hawthorn flowers, but also it's strangely got an association with death, and you were not to bring the hawthorn flower into the house. Now, I've had to write this down because I can never remember this, but it produces a chemical called trimethylene in the flower, and trimethylene is the same chemical that is produced when animal flesh starts to break down as well. So I think that's what the association is there, as to one with the other. Yeah, it's another one of the hedging trees. So again, it's another thing that is laid. And if you parked on the car park, you've probably seen the hedges running down the centre, and that will have blackthorn in, it will have hawthorn in, and it will likely have the next tree that I'm going to show you in. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, because I'm going to see if anyone can guess it as we move to it. And there's a pheasant.
The other thing, do you know, most of you have heard the saying about never cast a cloud till May
May's out.
This is what it refers to as the May flower.
Absolutely.
So don't take your woolly vests off until you see hawthorn flowers.
Yeah, thanks, Kathy. Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely, yeah, totally. And it's really, when you see that, it's pretty as well. So if you imagine that was like the literally cut. And then off that, then start to do. This is a really sort of thick structure. And looks massive, Which you'd never guess looking at the tree. And there's actually this wall of This is amazingly our third hedging tree. Never guessed that, would you, looking at it? This is a very large example. This clearly hasn't been laid and hedged. I wouldn't normally clip leaves, but this one is so full I'm going to actually take a leaf off here. So ignoring the spot in there, can anybody guess what kind of tree we've got here? Does it remind you of any country's flags if I do that in particular?
Looks really Canadian.
Looks a bit Canadian, yeah. The reason why it looks a bit Canadian is because it is a maple tree. So this is our only native maple. So it lives in Acer family. So its Latin name is Acer campestre. So you'll also see other acers like sycamore, non-natives to Britain, and we do have Norwegian maples as well. You can tap field maples for sap, but they don't produce anywhere near as much as Canadian maples. In terms of being able to tell when it's not in leaf, Acer trees have a opposite budding structure. So it will always have the buds in winter coming out in sets of twos across from each other, and then one terminal bud at the end. So that's often how you can then tell that it's at least a maple tree. And that it's within that sort of Acer family. Grows to about 20 metres, although is often much smaller than that, and can live 350 years. And it's the third kind of tree that we mentioned before in terms of being able to lay and pop within hedges. Its bark, as you can see through there, is very light brown, often flaky. And its flowers, it's actually in flower at the moment, so you can see all the flowers that are on there. Now, interestingly, they're not as pretty as some of the flowers that we've seen before, but it is another insect-pollinated tree, so it's another monoecious tree. So those flowers have got both the male and the female parts within there at the same time. And once those flowers are then pollinated, they'll produce the seeds, which are a samrus. And they're like a spinning jenny type structure, if anybody's come across that. So it will filter its way down to the ground, and then that will then...
You can see them on here, I'm not sure if you can see them over there.
Oh, is it?
You've got two on here.
Yeah, the size.
Excellent. The seeds?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
It's like there, they start to come through that little winged structure.
Quite a lot on this section.
It's quite a sappy tree as well, so it's particularly attractive to aphids, and so therefore will also then attract butterflies as well. Ladybirds as well, so you'll see ladybirds on there. In terms of moths, it's associated with a mocha moth. I've got a photo actually of a mocha moth. I'll show you a bit. This isn't my photo, by the way, I've taken this from online, but that's a mocha moth, which is really pretty moth. So that's associated with the field maple as well. It's a mocha moth.
Has it got blue on it? Is it blue?
It does look a bit on that, but I think it's
Yeah,
actually
that's
more
the
grey
photo,
browny.
grey.
Yeah. It
Absolutely
might just be
gorgeous,
the
isn't it? Yeah.
screen protector on that actually.
Are they big or small?
Kind of, yeah.
It's quite big.
Yeah,
I like
lovely.
it, yeah.
Hardest of all the maples as well that we've got. So in terms of things like if you get a maple backed guitar, that's often field maple that's used in that. It was traditionally used to make harps as well, musical instruments. A lot of these trees as well will have this kind of association with mysticism and witches and things like that. And a field maple, I don't know why this, but a field maple, if a child had had a spell cast upon them and you wave a field maple branch over them, you'll remove the witch's spell from the child. And it's also got an association with bats as well, in that it was said that if you were to hang field maple branches over your doorway, you would stop bats from coming into your home. I don't know how true that is as well, but again, that was just one of the sort of legendary uses of field maple. So that's field maple.
When we say these trees live for 350 years and 400 years, so do these trunks, do they get like wider and
No,
wider?
not massively. So this isn't a huge maple tree. This is probably, you know, as large as this one will get. They'll get up to about 20 metres high, but no, they don't particularly grow massive. They're quite often, you'll see them in cities and towns now as well, field maple, a lot more than perhaps you used to previously. They are particularly air pollutant tolerant as well, and they're being utilised a lot more in planting because of the sort of adaptability to climate change as well. So yeah, we've seen more and more field maple. There's a lot of field maple near where I live, near a town called Burnley, and there's a lot of field maple around there. So they are fairly popular. Lovely tree. We'll move on into the woods. We're going to dip into the woods, but I'm not going to spend. So I spent so much time as a kid in woods and woodlands. I think that's where it grew from, basically.
Looks a bit sad.
It does look really sad, and that's why I've stopped. Actually, I spotted this one before. This has clearly recently been planted. And it has been absolutely, that's deer that's made its way around there, likely roe deer that's had a piece of that. That's Scots pine. I don't know the Latin name, I've not written this one down, so I can't tell you, unless Andy, you know off the top of your head. No. I want to say something like Pinus sylvatica or something like that. This will have male and female parts on the same tree, and the female parts will become the cones that we're kind of used to as well.
Kind of sylvestris.
Sylvestris, that's it, thank you. It is our only native pine. I'm going to say native, it's native really to Scotland rather than here, but it's our only native pine. It's only one of 3 native conifers, so there's also yew and juniper as well. But this one, whether it survives that deer attack, I don't know. I just thought it was worthwhile pointing out though that, you know, one of the biggest challenges actually sometimes with tree and woodland creation is deer. Actually, we have a very, very high population of deer. I was going to say in Lancashire, but actually across the country. So it's one thing you always have to bear in mind when creating woodland is the damage that deer and grey squirrel will make to those in terms of bark stripping. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I got slightly distracted by Scots pine.
Thank you.
There we go.
Probably worthwhile just pointing out as we come in, you'll notice the ground flora change quite significantly from where we were previously as well. So you'll see lesser celandine and bluebell come through, dog's mercury, enchanter's nightshade. You'll see wood avens that you haven't seen in previous. So this is kind of an indication you're in a much older woodland space as well. So you know, trees kind of hide the exotics that way, but also the ground flora gives that away. Probably worthwhile just stopping here as well at this holly. So this is a really good example actually of something just to show it. So holly is Ilex aquifolium, so it grows to about 15 metres, lives to about 300 years, and its bark, as you can just see through there, tends to be smooth. It's got those sort of little warts on it, those lenticles that we talked about before. And the leaves down here are probably what you'd more associate with holly, those kind of spiky leaves down at the bottom. And as you work your way up, if you look at the leaves up at the top, they're more typical leaf structure, more oval in structure. And this is, we're in the deer nibble zone basically here. So the tree reacts to that, right? Reacts to those outside pressures, and that's called epigenic changes. So it doesn't change its DNA, but it's able to change its leaf structure to react to outside influences and to danger. Younger holly trees, you'll notice, tend to be more covered with those spiky leaves. The older a holly gets, the more it's able to sort of cope with that and tends to have more oval shaped leaves. You'll see on this as well, we'll have flowers coming through, and holly is dioecious, so that's the two. So we've got male flower trees and we've got female flower trees. And berries will only appear on the female flower trees. So if you stood at your holly tree waiting for those berries to come through and it's not, you've got a male one there basically. It's never going to happen. Insects will obviously utilise those as well, even though it's male and female separately, but it will still have pollination from insects. And the berries are vigorously guarded by missel thrushes. I've got a photo of a missel thrush on here somewhere. So that's a missel thrush there. They will vigorously guard the berries on the trees, and I mean vigorously actually as well. They do really keep other birds at bay. It's also associated with a holly blue butterfly. I don't know what we just had there. Is it a long-tailed tit? I'm not sure. No, I'm not sure either. It didn't sound like it, but it looked like it. Deer, wood mice, dormice will utilise. It is, of course, a symbol of Christmas. And possibly associated with that as well, it's unlucky to cut a holly, or traditionally was unlucky to cut a holly, and maybe it's because it's associated with that time of joy and happiness, etc. Holly is used also for furniture. It produces the whitest of all the woods, so you'll see holly wood used in furniture, etc. as well. And it's an interesting one in that it is a native, but it is also sometimes problematic, the holly. So it will spread very, very easily, and when it does spread, because of having leaves that remain all year round, it will actually blot out ground flora underneath it. So you'll notice here, where the holly's growing, actually there's very little ground flora there, where there is in other places, and that's because it's not dropping those leaves, so it blots things out. And over a woodland, actually, it does need managing and it does need controlling, because otherwise a woodland too full of holly then starts to lose its use in terms of a wildlife habitat. We'll make our way down to another tree that's also guilty of that, actually. It's a lovely bit this as well. Again, talking about that sort of change in ground flora. I mean, as the bluebells go up there, I think it was last spring they were obliterated, unfortunately, by rainfall. Yeah, they were only here for like a week or two.
Not quite as impressive this year, I don't think, as they have been.
No.
Probably because of that.
Probably because of that, absolutely. We're beneath a very, very large tree as well. This is a non-native, well, non-native in the north of England. Actually, it's considered to be native in the far south of England, but it's supposedly arrived around the Bronze Age. And this is a beech tree, so also known as Fagus sylvatica, that's its Latin name. Grows very tall, up to about 40 metres tall, and lives for about 400 years. And it's given away often by, one, its size and its structure. There's not many trees that have this sort of huge, giant structure, and along with its bark, which is particularly grey, flat, not particularly fissured. Often people will do that as well, strangely, to beech trees. That's happened all over the place. It's really, really weird that people will always strike into beech trees. It's not known to actually cause the tree any real damage or harm, but still, I wouldn't recommend it. Its leaves, unfortunately I can't show you any in terms of bringing them down, but its leaves have that sort of pointed, oval, typical, simple leaf structure that you'd imagine a tree leaf to look like. And when they first come through, they'll be fringed with hairs, but those hairs will disappear. It becomes quite waxy then, and you'll probably still see bits of last year's beech leaves on the floor because they're full of tannins. They don't break down very easily at all. And again, that can be quite problematic in beech woodlands where you have a real high canopy, a very full canopy, and leaf structure that doesn't break down. It means your ground flora just doesn't come through there as well. Beech trees are monoecious, so one tree, you'll get that male and the female flower on the same tree. The male have tassel-like catkins on a stalk, and the females grow in pairs, and they're surrounded by a cup, and that cup is then where the nuts will come through. The beech nuts then grow from there, and it's wind pollinated, being monoecious, and they don't produce the nuts every year as well. It's sort of about every 4 or 5 years the beech nuts tend to come through rather than every year. It does have some benefits in terms of its shady structure, and that's often with fungus. And if anybody's ever read, there's a book called The Secret Life of Trees, and that's a German gentleman who wrote that, a German forester, I forget his name, apologies, and he managed a beech forest for commercial reasons, but he talks there around the relationship between the fungus and the trees, which is ectomycorrhizal is the relationship between those two, and it's where the fungus will ask the tree for sugars, and the tree will ask the fungus for nutrients, and they share that across the wood, and the trees share between themselves. It's a fascinating book. I really would recommend reading it. The Secret Life of Trees. Yeah, it's brilliant. If you can get the audio book as well, because the gentleman who's written it, he reads it. It's great, really just fascinating. Wood-wise, it is often used commercially still, so furniture, there's a lot of furniture from beech wood. It is used as a hedging plant as well. Quite a lot of people have beech as a hedging plant, and that's because beech will hold on to the leaves over the winter period. Less so when they get to this size, you tend to not really have the leaves stay on this size, but when they're in hedge size, they keep hold of those leaves all year round. They're brown, but they do stay. And that's called morsescence as well. So when a tree holds onto its leaf, it's morsescence that's doing that. And when the buds come through on this, they have an alternate budding structure. So not across from each other, they're alternate. And they have a really distinctive bud. It's really long, very short, looks like a really short pencil or a torpedo. That's how you can tell them in winter as well. And if anybody enjoys smoked herring, that's what's smoking it for you. It tends to be the beech smoke that's doing that for you. Yeah. I'm just going to go slightly further down.
They don't have as long a lifespan as you imagine either, do they? Is it about 150 years or something?
They can live up to about 400, yeah.
But I was listening to something on the radio the other day saying that where there's so many of them coming down in the winds, and thinking that a lot of them were where they were planted maybe back in Victorian times on the estates, and that a lot of them might only have that sort of shorter lifespan. So what we're seeing in apparently losing a lot of beech trees isn't as, I think God, it's climate change, all the rest of it, or they're being exposed to some sort of viruses, but it just is, it's actually the natural lifespan for them, and it's about sort of, there hasn't been a replacement sort of strategy up until recently to try and get them replaced.
They are known to drop branches as well. Never camp underneath a beech tree. They just drop a branch without any warning. So you've got to be very careful.
Yeah, I'm going to make that.
The next tree.
You might find you might not wake up in the morning.
You know what? Not as long as you think. Actually, they're really mature.
Seen it because Lindsay who works on the reserve this morning just pointed out to me. And apparently when they surveyed this wood in 1850, this was mentioned.
Right, so it's come back, has it?
Well, I think it might have always still been here. I think it might have been overlooked possibly.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of it actually.
Yeah.
So what, do the flowers come out? Is that it for the
those
flowers?
are the flowers, yeah.
Yeah.
And they'll form into like burrs,
Right.
so stick on clothing and things like and animals.
Those sort of sticky things, yeah.
And apparently Sanic.
I'll come back to that.
The smell is very nice. Breathing and smell. At the don't think you can buy some hut here, but at least we can lease us to stay here. So there is no residential property in this area.
No, over the way, yes, but not in this spot here, no. I'll just stop really briefly at this one, just because this is really good to look at after we've just looked at beech. So this here has got a very similar leaf structure to beech, so it's that oval leaf. And particularly at this time of year, when the beech leaf has just come through and it's still a bit hairy. This one though actually is more jaggedy of edge rather than wavy of edge, and much more pronounced in terms of its veins. This is a hornbeam, so that mistaken for beech is a different species hornbeam.
Is that a eatable?
No.
Okay.
Oh, and that's actually, it's part of the birch family as well, so it's, I can't remember its Latin name, it's something betula though, so it's part of the birch family. I just thought it was worthwhile pointing that out after we'd just had a look at that one. We're going to head back actually, come out, I think, of the woods, the other way.
I'd already touched it and I thought, everything moves.
That's a male chaffinch.
You know when you're doing it, and I thought you were over there.
Taken with hazel, again, particularly at this time of year when it comes through. This is wych elm. Now, none of the leaves on this one are doing it yet, but some of the leaves will actually start. Oh, actually, this one over here is. If you can just see this leaf here, can you see how it's almost forming a W at the top?
Yes.
See how the side is going up there and that other side's going up. So hazel won't do that, but the biggest giveaway, if honest, when you're looking at them as well, is that it has an unsymmetrical leaf structure. So one part of the leaf will start further down than the other part. So instead of most leaves where they'll grow from the same point, the elms will do that. So one part of the leaf will grow from one part and then the other will be slightly further down. So that's how you'll tell an elm. You won't often see large wych elms as well, because unfortunately they were just decimated and continue to be decimated by Dutch elm disease. And the beetles, it's really strange, it's almost like the beetles seem to know when they get to a certain size, move on in there, and that's what kind of spreads the disease. They could live for about 400 years, but they just don't anymore. But yeah, it's probably just worthwhile pointing that out just with the leaf, because like I say, when we come across hazel later on, I'll show you how that looks really similar, but that's the biggest differential then that you'd be able to see there as well. These are hermaphroditic, so they do produce a flower, and they come through in spring, and that then leads to a samarus, again another wind-taken seed that will then go down. They are also associated with the white letter Hurstreak butterfly. I think there's a sign out at the front actually that talks about the wych elm, so we'll maybe just have a look at that on the way out. And it is another one, don't camp beneath them if you do see a larger one, because again they drop the branches without warning, and unfortunately they drop without warning as well once they've become unstable in terms of the structure.
So would this have been planted by?
No. Traditionally there would have been elm in here, and they'll continue to, the seed's quite fertile once it's then gone down, so they'll continue to come through as saplings, but they just won't get past a point, so they'll come through, die off, come through, die off, just careful as you step on that, come through and die off, so yeah. We'll move up again, I'll show you another one of the maples, I'm sure most probably know. So again, Canadian flag, anybody in the middle of, perhaps a little bit more like the Canadian flag in terms of pointy structure. Actually looks like it's got a little tar spot on it as well, which you don't even normally see at this time of year. Anybody for this tree? This is a sycamore. So sycamore tree, Latin name, Acer, so same as the field maple that we had before, Acer, but this is Acer pseudoplantus. So again, in winter, as with all the maples that we talked about, it'll have that opposite leaf budding structure, so you'll see two opposite each other in that terminal bud, and quite a large leaf that then comes through as well. And this one, I was just looking on there, looks like it's got a little dark spot on it, and sometimes, usually later on in the season, you'll have sycamore have something called tar spot, which is a fungal disease, but it's not really known to be causing a great deal of damage to the sycamore population. Sycamore are a troublesome non-native tree as well sometimes, in that they are very, very fertile. So it will similarly, in the same way as the field maple, produce those spinning jenny type seeds that can go for ages, and you will see sycamore seedlings and saplings pop up all over the place, and it's another blotter out of the ground flora. Popular nesting site though for blackbird, robin, blue tit, and it has another moth associated with it as well, which is called a sycamore moth, which again I think I have a photo of, so I'll show everybody that. Its bark at this time, and when it's younger, tends to be smooth and grey like the beech, but as it ages it turns more plate-like, and so sometimes almost you can actually think that you're looking at an oak in winter because of that bark, because it has quite a sort of platey structure to it, but the key thing then in winter is that opposite budding structure wouldn't be shared with the oak. Heritage in Greek, Celtic and North mythology, and the one thing that I really like about it, and again I always have to write this down and forget when I'm out, is in Wales love spoons are made from sycamore. Has anybody come across love spoons? But yeah, so that's where you carve a spoon for your loved one and you write little messages or paint messages on them, and then you give them that love spoon to declare your love and ask them if they're then allowed to court you, and they come from sycamore trees. Another very wind tolerant tree, good from a storm perspective, which means another reason why they tend to stick around for a long time, and they do live up to about 400 years. You'll read different things in terms of the non-nativeness as to when they were brought to Britain. So I've read the Romans brought them in, they arrived in the 1600s, they arrived in the 1400s. I don't know which of those is true, but certainly they're not a long and native species to Britain. That's the sycamore. So we'll head out the woods now. We'll go back down to kind of where we were. I'll show you a few more down there. I'm just checking the time as we go as well, because we kind of... You get like epicormic growth that happens, and that does happen quite a lot on the oak trees. That's a sign of stress, that.
Is it?
Yeah, so it's like bacteria has got in there, and it's a sign of stress that you get a lot of.
Oh, so it's not a good thing. 'cause
No,
I'm thinking,
there it's
actually,
not. No.
yeah.
No, you tend to get it off large bulges that come off the sides. There'll be like bacterial growth. No, you've got to kind of almost just allow that tree to sort of fix itself. I don't think we're going to come across the area that I was going to go across before, so I'll mention this one here as well. Just because I've been nattering a bit too much today, I think I'm going to cut out a section that I was planning. The really, really beautiful butterflies, kind of what you'd almost think. Yeah, lovely. And you'll see those in kind of open coppiced hazelwood woodlands. Large emerald moth is associated with the hazel. They're one of the earliest producers of catkins that come through, so the flowers, the male flowers, and they'll hang down off the branches. What is that?
Just there, yeah.
Wow,
Still going this way.
Yeah.
oh wow, yeah, there is. And those have flowerlets within them, so those male catkins hang down. You've got about 250 flowers within there. Now, they are good for early pollinators, but the pollen isn't sticky. They don't rely on pollinators to reproduce. They are wind pollinated hazel. So although early bees will use that pollen, it doesn't stick to them in the same way as other trees. They produce hazelnuts, of course, If anybody likes Nutella, that's where you're eating your Nutella from. Which jays in particular will like, as will nuthatch woodpeckers, example as well. What else do I want to tell you about? Oh, the magical aspect of hazel as well. Yeah, so hazel rods, from that coppice structure, people would then use those as walking sticks, etc. But you'd have hazel rods, and hazel rods were then used as wands to protect against evil, but also as water diviners. Is a hazel rod is how you use as well. So yeah, that's the hazel.
Quite good for using in your garden for like pea and bean supports and because you get quite a lot of somewhere not far from here actually. Just selling them for that for garden purposes.
Yeah. Lovely tree. Corylus avellana, that's its Latin name as well. But it's one of the ones I always kind of think you notice most in sort of February time, just kind of covered in those acorns. That's what you'll see first and foremost before anything else. Okay, we'll head down.
When Lee was talking about plants making perfume, that takes energy, as does producing flowers. So what this does, to attract the insects, it has these showy flowers around the outside. They're not fertile though, so it's attracting the insects with these showy flowers. What's fertile is the middle bit, so saving energy by not creating the flowers, but tricking the insects to come in and fertilise the plant that way. So beautiful red berries in autumn. You have a year-round interest from it. So a native thing. I don't know whether they're not more popular in gardens really. They're absolutely beautiful. As you can see there now, and we'll have fantastic berries also in winter. So the Gelder Rose, it's named after a place in Holland, but it's a native British tree. That's all I've got.
The poisonous giant hawthorn, it's got that. It's a simple leaf, but it's lobed. It's a cross between a maple and a hawthorn, but it tends to have that sort of three quite large areas of lobe, whereas the maples tend to have a lot more, and hawthorn tend to be a lot tighter structure and obviously a lot smaller as well. It is beautiful. I can see what's your favourite, Andy.
So does it just grow like?
Yeah, only small. It's not a large grower. Again, it's about a sort of 2 metre high one.
Whereas the white ones won't take red berries. It's the larger ones. That's just a nasty cold.
When that opens itself up, white wings, orange tips. Yeah. And that'll be laying its egg on the cuckoo flower. And am I right? I mean, the cuckoo flower looks like a cat's foot. And similarly, goat willow produces a pointy up grey catkin that looks like a cat's foot. Now it's the goat willow that's actually called also pussy willow, pussycat willow. However, grey willow, which was what these are sometimes called pussy willow because of the same catkin structure. They also hybridise between each other, so this is why it's very difficult to tell. But they've got that clockwise alternate budding structure going on. Now a grey willow, which that one is got more of a sort of oval shaped leaf, tends to be about 3 times as long as it is wide. The goat willow tends to be quite wide, so it's about as long as it is wide and has a little kink in the end. But don't rely fully on that because of the hybridising. just had a brown hair. So we just had a brown hair. Oh, go through there. That, by the way, is the leftover male catkin there of this. So this is a grey willow, and that's the leftover male catkin. So that'll have been like really furry and like I was talking about before. The female ones are a lot longer and woodier, and they turn into seeds. Oh, which on cue. So that then becomes the seed, and then drops. And that's how okay, everybody, I've got just 2 more trees, and then we'll head back down. Yeah, they were put in, I want to say 2014.
They're reminding me Stonehenge.
Yeah, they've tried to replicate, so they've taken the stones from quarries of where they point to, and they were brought up by traditional methods.
Is there any symbol putting this here?
Yeah, so it tracks the sun.
Oh,
So some of the sun for the equinoxes,
okay.
spring, summer and winter.
This is the river.
Okay, everybody, I'm going to do a 2-in-1 deal here. I think there is additional trees that I would like to have shown you over that way, but unfortunately I've rambled on too long and tried to cram in too much, so apologies for that. So here, this tree first of all, we've got it's that leaf structure again, where that is a leaf. So everything beneath my fingers is one leaf there. So that's that pinnate leaf structure, feather-like, and that shares a very similar leaf structure with ash tree as well. So when ash trees produce, they will also produce that pinnate leaf structure. Differential ash have a smooth edge, whereas these have a toothed edge, and this tree is known because of that as a mountain ash. However, there are no relation at all. So this is a rowan tree, so no relation to the ash, but is known as a mountain ash, and it's because of the similarity in those leaves there. So rowan trees, really good on acidic ground, really good on upper areas, so you get a lot in terms of the higher aspects of West Pennine Moors near here, but in Scotland there's a lot of rowan trees that will grow quite high up as well, hence the mountain ash. Not a tall growing tree, about 15 metres, and lives for about 200 years, and they have this silvery smooth bark structure. In winter you can really tell them by, unfortunately there's none left, but the twigs that come through are known as witch's fingers, and it's where it compounds the growth from last time. So it's this wrinkly finger, and at the end of the wrinkly finger is quite a dark black nail, which is the leaf bud, or sometimes kind of purpley coloured. Biggest giveaway is that leaf structure, and you'll see the flowers come through in these sort of umbel type clusters as well. So again, it's looking to produce a scent, it's looking to be pretty, it's looking to attract insects in for pollination. So you've got another hermaphroditic flower there. Once those have been pollinated, those will then change into berries, and those berries, blackbird, redstart, redwing, thrushes will all utilise as well. We are in the, I was going to say shadow, but it's a bit of a, we're not that close actually, but over the way is Pendle Hill, which is obviously associated with witches, as are rowan trees, as are a lot of the trees that we've talked about today. Rowan trees, if you want to keep a witch at bay, plant one in your garden. So that's what they're for. But also, if you really like jam, plant one in your garden, because those berries make a lovely jam once they've been boiled down. You shouldn't eat them without that though, by the way. They are toxic until they have been cooked. And I said I'd do a 2-for-1 deal, just very quickly. I was actually going to show you a different oak, but this is not such a bad example of them being able to show you. So here we've got a English oak or a pedunculate oak, and this is a nature reserve in itself, as is the sessile oak, which is our other native oak. So no tree that is native will support more creatures than the oak tree. So there are 257 species of insects that utilise the oak. There are 326 species that utilise nothing but the oak. In total, they support over 2,000 species. Now, when I said that this one is a pedunculate oak, this, by the way, growing down here are the male flowers. So that's the male catkins, and the female flowers will also grow on this tree. So we've got another one tree, monoecious tree. If you look at the way that the leaves grow out of this, they are pretty stalkless, and they go immediately into a lobe. And that's where you know that this is a pedunculate rather than a sessile. Now, conversely, when the acorns come through, they will be on a stalk and will act like a pendulum, pedunculate pendulum. The sessile is the reverse of that. So the sessile will have stalked leaves, and instead of going straight into the lobe, it sort of tapers out, then starts to lobe. And the acorns on that tree will not be on a stalk, they will be tightly to the structure. So that's the biggest way of telling between the sessile and the pedunculate oak. However, as with a lot of these things, they hybridise with each other, and that happens a lot with these wind pollinated trees, so that you do get hybrids of sessile and pedunculate. It's the king of trees, and it also has that association with that sort of grandeur, greatness and gods. So it's associated with Zeus, Jupiter, the Celtic god Dagda, and Roman emperors would wear a crown of oak trees, the laurel of oaks. A very slow growing tree. It spends a lot of its early time establishing its root system, and when they are used for material in terms of construction use or furniture use, purposes like that, it's often about 150 years before you start to use that. And oaks will live for thousands of years. You've probably all seen in the news recently about the tree being cut down and the sort of uproar that's caused a very old oak tree there as well. Badgers, jays, squirrels, they will all utilise the oak tree as well. There are some sessile slightly further down, but as I say, I've kind of run out of time, I'm afraid, so I'm going to walk you back down to the car park now so everybody knows where they are. And apologies that we've missed out on a couple of trees that I was going to show you. But do feel free to spend your time and do a bit more walking.
Do you know why the lowing tree is supposed to take needles?
No.
Look at the berries. Yeah. It looks like the berries.
Yeah.
They're pentangled.
Okay.
That's five.
I didn't know that. As I mentioned at the beginning, you know, we're here, a couple of us on a voluntary basis, and if anybody's interested in that, do have a look via the website if you want to get involved in any voluntary activity, and that can be at Brockholes or any of the other reserves, or indeed any of the other work that the Trust does around Lancashire, Manchester and North Merseyside. I've really enjoyed myself this morning, so I hope you have as well. It's such fun. Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a lovely day. I'm sorry that there are trees that I didn't show you, but there are many more, and I forgot to show everybody the very large white willow. But if you go down this path and you look up to the left, you'll see the biggest willow tree ever. That is the white willow.
I hope next time they offer 3 hour too.
What's that, sorry?
Next time they offer 3 hour too.
3 hours, absolutely, yeah, maybe, yeah.
Whole day.
Yeah.
Whole day, yeah.
So yeah, thanks again. Enjoy the weekend.
Yes, I'll wait here.
Soon.
Thank you. That's interesting.
Lee, job well done, man.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
See you later. Cheers. See you in a bit.
Bye.
Bye.